The screen door slammed behind him. The sound split the air, sharp enough to make the old boards creak. He froze at the edge of the porch. The wooden steps slick with rain, and something darker. Blood, dark red smeared across the pale wood. A jagged line tracing the outline of the first step. She was there, his wife, in the arms of his brother. He didn't speak at first. He just stared, chest tight, the pulse thundering in his ears louder than the wind rattling the tin roof. What the hell? His voice came out strangled, almost a growl. She froze, eyes wide and wet. The brother jerked back like a cornered animal. Tom, she started, but he cut her off. Don't you dare. His hands clenched into fists. What is this? Explain it now. She shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks, catching the dim porch light like tiny reflections of a storm. I didn't, she whispered. Didn't what? He spat. I walked in and found you with him. That's what I found. His voice cracked, low and sharp. His brother's jaw tightened. It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like. He laughed without humor, the sound hollow. He's got your hands on her, and you think I'll believe it's not what it looks like. She sobbed. Please, just, please, don't. He took a step forward, but the porch felt too small, too fragile under the weight of anger. I gave you everything. Everything. And this is how it ends. Silence followed. Heavy, pressing. Only the wind and the wet patter of rain against the roof. Tom, please, she said again. No, he said, shaking his head. No more. The brother shifted. Look, I can explain. Explain what? He barked. That you've ruined us. That you've ruined her. The brother opened his mouth, closed it again. Words didn't come. Maybe they never could. His wife's sobs filled the air, small and broken. I love you, she whispered, and it broke him further. Not the betrayal, not the humiliation, but the soft truth in the words. Love. It wasn't enough to stop what was coming. He backed away, breathing fast, feeling the cold wet of the porch under his boots. Get out, he said. Both of you. Now. The brother hesitated, then turned, stepping off the porch into the rain, silent and careful. He disappeared into the shadows. Behind the barn, the smell of wet earth rising with him. She fell to her knees on the step, hands gripping the blood-stained wood. I'm sorry, she whispered. He didn't answer. He turned toward the road, boots splashing in puddles, leaving her there. Tears ran freely down her face, mingling with the rain, soaking into her hair. She reached for the railing, then let it go. Silence, except for the storm and the creak of the porch. That blood on the step, though it wasn't just his, not really. It was everything he had given, everything he had trusted, everything shattered. He walked fast, head down, trying not to hear the sobs. The town would talk, the neighbors would whisper, but he didn't care. They would know he had been wronged. They would know that he was done being small. Behind him, the porch light flickered, shadows stretching long over the old boards, bending like twisted fingers. She stayed there, knees wet, shaking, reaching for him without moving, knowing he wouldn't return. He heard her call his name, once, soft, broken. He kept walking, footsteps swallowed by mud, rain, the distant clap of thunder. Somewhere, in the dark, the brother lingered, hidden by trees, watching, waiting. The balance had shifted. The lines had been drawn. Everything had changed in the space of a heartbeat, the kind of change that burns itself into memory. And on the porch, the blood slowly darkened in the rain, a quiet testament to the first fracture, the first betrayal, the first spark of what was coming. He did not look back. The night swallowed him, but the sound of her crying followed, faint, yet persistent, echoing under the eaves, under the old beams, under the stars hidden by storm clouds. There would be no forgiveness tonight. There would be no comfort, only the hard edge of reality, the taste of betrayal, and the fire of anger beginning to rise. He walked the perimeter of the farm, boots crunching over ash and splintered wood. The barn leaned crooked, its beams blackened by fire, doors swinging loose in the wind. Rusted tools lay scattered, half buried in the dirt, handles rotted, and sharp edges dulled. He ran a hand over the nearest post, feeling the coarse burn of charred wood under his fingers. Everything smelled of smoke and wet earth. The house behind him stood quiet, windows dark, curtains torn. Memories pressed against his skull, each step stirring old voices. He hated the silence, but hated the noise more. He stopped by the broken fence, looking toward the town, a few shapes moving among the shadows. They had seen him before, walking like a man defeated but dangerous, a man who had nothing left to lose. "Morning, Jack," called a neighbor from the road. She kept her distance, hands buried in her coat pockets, eyes averted. "Thought you might have left for good." "I'm still here," he said, voice flat. "Just walking the wreckage." "You don't have to stay," she said, almost pleading. "The town's talking." "I know." He let the words hang. He didn't need gossip. The farm, charred and silent, said enough. "I'll be gone when I'm ready," he added. Another figure appeared, leaning on a fence post. Old Man Carter, eyes like stone. "Lost a lot," he said, no question in his tone. "Might find something still worth keepin'." He laughed softly, bitter. "Worth keepin'? You call this worth keepin'? Everything I had, gone." Carter shrugged. "Some things don't stay. You get new, or you rot." He watched them leave, townspeople retreating into the shadows, whispers curling behind him like smoke. He turned back to the farm. The barn door creaked again, swinging in the wind. Inside, blackened beams intersected like broken ribs. He ran a hand over the rusted plow, the edges rough under his fingers. A memory surfaced: his father, teaching him to work it, guiding his hands, laughing. The sound made his chest ache. He knelt, fingers brushing ash from a tool, staring at the gray powder and rust. "It's over," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "It's all over." He rose slowly, scanning the land beyond the fence. Fields lay empty, weeds long and uncut, fences collapsed under years of neglect. A chill ran down his spine. Opportunity hid in neglect. The town might whisper about failure, but here, in this abandoned stretch, power waited quietly. He could see it. Lines of property unclaimed, land that could be his if he had the will to take it. He clenched his jaw. He had the will. "Jack." The voice came again. His wife, standing where he hadn't seen her approach, face pale, hair tangled. "You don't have to do this alone." He didn't answer. He didn't look. He felt her presence, a shadow at the edge of memory, a reminder of everything lost. "I'm fine alone," he said finally, voice low. "Better alone." She swallowed, lips pressed thin. "People are talking. You'll burn out, carrying it all." "Let them talk," he said. "I've been walking through fire before. Won't matter if they whisper now." She stepped closer, hesitated, then turned away, her coat flapping in the wind. He watched her go, feeling the weight of her absence. Heavier than her presence had ever been. The sun dipped low, shadows stretching long over broken fences and the blackened barn. He walked toward the center of the land, kicking at the loose dirt and ash. His mind measured every step, calculated every corner. Each ruined post, each splintered plank, whispered potential. There was work to be done, land to be claimed, power waiting quietly beneath neglect and rot. He paused, eyes on the edge of the neighboring property, wild with overgrown brush and abandoned crops. This could be his. He could take it piece by piece, turn ruin into dominance. The thought steadied him, made his chest less hollow. He could rise. He knelt beside a rusted bucket, brushing dirt from the rim, imagining the lines of crops he could plant, the fences he could rebuild, the barns. He could claim the smell of ash mixed with wet soil, a perfume of endings and beginnings. He whispered to the land, not to her, not to anyone else. This can be mine. The wind shifted, carrying distant voices from town, soft and murmured. He ignored them, letting the isolation press into his bones. He dug at the ground with a hand, small, purposeful movements, feeling strength grow in the repetition. The fire had taken much, but it hadn't taken his eyes, hadn't taken the drive that had lain hidden under the hurt. He could see it now, the rise from ruin, the quiet accumulation of everything the town had thought he'd lost. Evening deepened, shadows thickening across the burned beams and broken fences. He walked the edges again, boots crunching ash and dry grass, mind focused, calculating. The farm was nothing but memory and ruin, but the land beyond, that land whispered possibilities. He touched a fallen post, imagining the straight line of a new fence, the neat rows of crops, barns rising like bones reconstructed. He whispered to the wind, to himself, "It's time." And for the first time since the night on the porch, he felt the weight of loss shift into something heavier, sharper. Not grief, not regret, power, waiting patiently in the ashes. He entered the small office behind Carter's general store, the air thick with dust and the smell of old paper. Ledger books lay stacked on the counter, edges yellowed, corners curling. Ink stains dotted the worn wood, blotches of forgotten numbers and signatures. He dropped his coat over a chair, boots scraping the floor. "You said you had something. For me," he said, voice low, tense. The accountant looked up from a pile of ledgers, spectacles sliding down his nose. "Depends what you mean," he replied, not looking away from the books. "The truth, or what they'll let you see." "The truth," he said. The man sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "Sit." He gestured to a rickety chair. He sat, eyes scanning the room. Dust motes floated in the single beam of sunlight through the cracked window. The accountant spread out the ledgers, lines of numbers, like a map of betrayal. "Your brother," the man began. "He's creative with the books. Money moving places it shouldn't. Loans under names that don't exist. Payments unrecorded. You know the farm tax hasn't been paid in 2 years. That's just the start." He leaned back, letting the weight of the words settle. "You're saying he's stealing?" The accountant shrugged. "Call it redirecting, fraud, but mostly it's him building power quietly. Nobody sees, nobody questions, and nobody cares. Some care, not enough, not yet." He ran a hand along the edge of a ledger, feeling the rough texture. Dust coated his fingers. Letters unopened sat on the counter, edges yellowed, ink fading. One bore the town seal, unread, forgotten. He picked it up, letting it rest in his palm. "I should confront him," he said, barely a whisper. "Now?" the accountant asked, eyes sharp behind glass. "I want the numbers first. I need proof." "Proof's here," the man said, tapping the ledger. "Everything's here." He glanced down at the page, eyes moving across sums and columns. His brother's name appeared more times than he cared to count, tangled in promises and debts. Each entry gnawed at him. The betrayal cut deeper than the memory of her, deeper than the fire, deeper than the ruined farm. "He trusts me," he said finally, almost to himself. "He thinks I won't notice, that I'll stay quiet." "He underestimates you," the accountant said. "That's his mistake." He leaned back in the chair, shoulders tight, mind spinning. He imagined the confrontation, the argument, the shove, maybe a punch. But the ledger weighed more than fists. Numbers held power, control. He could take it, turn it against his brother, wait, watch, strike at the exact moment. "If I move too fast," he said, voice low, "he'll know. He'll guard everything." "Then don't move," the accountant said bluntly. "Let him reveal himself." He nodded slowly, eyes returning to the ledgers. Lines of numbers and names blurred under the weight of strategy. He could see it now. The weaknesses, the arrogance, the trust misplaced. He would wait. Not for too long, but long enough to know exactly where to hit. He picked up another ledger, flicking the pages with a soft crackle. Ink had faded in places, smudged by careless hands. Unopened letters stuck between pages, heavy with untold secrets. He ran a finger over one. "Everything's here," he said again. "All of it." The accountant studied him quietly. "It changes things," he said, knowing his power. "But power can destroy you if you're careless." He looked up, meeting the accountant's gaze. "I'll be careful," he said, though the tightness in his jaw betrayed the tension. The man nodded. "Good. Careful is smart. Careless gets you burned." He leaned back, letting the silence fill the room. Dust swirled in the sunlight, the only movement other than the faint hum of the old ceiling fan. He traced letters and numbers again, memorizing the weak spots, imagining the leverage, imagining the fall. "He thinks he's untouchable," he whispered. "He won't be." The accountant didn't speak. He just watched, quiet and calculating. Time passed in small increments, each second sharpening the plan in his mind. He stacked the ledgers, placed them neatly back on the counter, inked pages hiding secrets like bones under soil. He held one letter longer, staring at the unopened seal. He could use it, or wait. Timing mattered. Always timing. "You'll have to move carefully," the accountant said finally. "The town watches. The people talk. One wrong step." "I know," he said. "I'll wait. But I'll strike when the moment comes." He dropped the letter back among the ledgers. The weight of the decision settled in his chest. Patience had never been his strong suit, but now it was everything. He rose from the chair, boots creaking on the worn floor. The accountant nodded again, eyes sharp. "One wrong move, and it all burns." He stepped toward the door, pulling his coat over his shoulders, mind already turning over scenarios, watching the numbers dance in his head. Outside, the wind stirred the dry grass along the road, rattling the boards of the nearby barns. The town slept, unaware of the storm building quietly in one man's chest, his brother's. Empire of quiet lies was laid bare, waiting for the right hand to take it. He breathed deep, eyes scanning the horizon, thinking of charred barns and rusted tools, of fire and ash, and the empty spaces where trust once lived. He would wait, and when the moment came, he would own everything. Smoke curled above the tree line, thin and silver against the darkening sky. He stood at the edge of the road, coat collar pulled high, eyes fixed on the distant barn. Flickering light leaked from broken windows, shadows moving like restless spirits across the walls. From the edge of town, voices carried through the night, sharp and hurried. "Did you see it?" one woman whispered. "Saw what?" another asked, voice trembling. "The fire at the Harlan place. Whole barn burning." "No, that's not possible." "He's careful." "Careful doesn't stop things from catching." "You think it was him, or someone else? Maybe the land wants something." He listened without moving, boots pressing into the soft earth. Words floated toward him, half-formed suspicions, fears he didn't need to name. "I heard it started near the back, where he keeps those ledgers. Old papers, maybe cursed. The land's old. Nothing good grows without cost." The wind shifted, carrying more voices, hushed and frantic. "Some say Harlan's losing control. Never seen him this careless. Maybe he's drunk, maybe he's tired, or maybe someone's showing him the edge of his empire." "Just a reminder." He didn't answer. He let the speculation fill the air, taking it in, calculating, sensing the fractures in his brother's authority. He walked toward the perimeter, boots sinking in damp earth, circling the property. Smoke thickened as he approached, carrying the smell of burned hay and charred wood. Shadows stretched, twisting across walls, flickering with the movement of flames inside. He crouched low, silent, studying the barn's outline, counting the gaps in its boards, the weak points in its structure. The fire was small, control-door. It appeared so, but the panic in the town suggested it was enough. Enough to reveal cracks, enough to expose fear. Inside the barn, shadows moved in rhythm with the flames, and he imagined faces twisting in fear, hands fumbling for control. He could see the tension before it reached him. He could feel the advantage forming. The townspeople continued there. Murmurs behind him. You hear he's gone inside. Who? Harlan? Saw him run in and out. Don't know what he's doing. Crazy. If it spreads, he loses everything. Or he's testing us. Maybe showing he's untouchable. He stayed low, silent, letting the voices pass, letting the fire and shadows do the talking for him. I wouldn't go near it, one man said. No one's safe if the place falls. Safe. Another scoffed. Since when has anyone here been safe? He circled again, eyes on the weak roofline, imagining the beams collapsing, the smoke filling every corner. Every flicker of light told him what he needed to know. Panic had already begun. Fear made mistakes. The town whispered about the fire, and he watched it seed doubt in his brother's mind. He's losing it, a woman said behind him. That barn's been standing 100 years, and now? Her words trailed off, swallowed by the crackle of burning wood. He studied the shadows moving against the walls, felt the tension in the land itself. Every crack in the siding, every blackened beam told a story. He imagined his brother's face, pale, sweat mixing with dirt, realizing controls slipping. It's nothing, a man muttered, voice cracking. Nothing he can't handle. Doesn't look like nothing to me, the woman said. He stayed, hidden in the brush, letting the firelight paint the darkness around him, letting the town's speculation reach its peak. He did not intervene. He did not need to. The fire spoke for him. The fear spread faster than flames, invisible but real, like roots under the soil. He crouched, hands brushing over charred ground, sensing the rhythm of panic as if it were a heartbeat. The barn groaned, smoke rising in thicker plumes, and he could hear the movement inside, the shuffle of hurried steps. The low murmur of a voice trying to command, trying to reassure. His brother's voice, tight, sharp, breaking in ways it never had before. Get it together. Move it. Don't let it. His tone cracked, betraying more than the fire ever could. That was the signal. The first crack in authority. The first tremor of doubt. He exhaled slowly, boots pressing into the ash, watching, waiting. The townspeople murmured still, some stepping closer, drawn to the chaos, but careful. It's spreading, one said. If we don't stop it, the whole place goes. Let it burn, another said, soft but deliberate. He stayed in the shadow of trees, mind turning over every angle, every possibility. The fire illuminated more than the barn. It illuminated weakness, fear, and opportunity. Smoke drifted high, curling into the night sky, a signal he did not need to read aloud. Shadows moved across the walls, flickering with each gust of wind, and he imagined the letters, the ledgers, all the small cracks his brother had ignored. Panic, he realized, was louder than fire. It revealed everything. The barn creaked again, sparks flaring, and he took a step back into the darkness, boots soft on the earth. His brother's panic would spread, slow and quiet, but unstoppable. The fire had done its work without hands touching it, without voice raised. He stayed, silent, letting the night settle, letting the town whisper, letting the brother reveal himself. When the last flame flickered in a window, when shadows no longer danced, he turned and walked back toward the road, mind already moving, already calculating. The cracks had appeared, the weakness had shown, and he would wait. Wait until the moment to strike was perfect. The screen door creaked as she entered, coat wet and hair plastered to her face. He didn't rise. He watched her step across the threshold, boots leaving dark marks on the worn floorboards. "I didn't think you'd come back," he said, voice flat, controlled. "I had to," she replied, eyes flicking to the cracked windows, to the shadows of old family photos on the walls. "For what?" he asked, tone sharp. She paused, hands tightening at her sides. "For us, for whatever's left." He laughed softly, a hollow sound that made her flinch. "Us? There's nothing left. You burned it all." "I know," she said, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. Sorry." He cut her off. "You left. You went to him. You made your choice." She swallowed, fingers brushing the faded wedding ring he had once given her. It caught the dim light, dull and chipped. "I survived," she said, almost a whisper. "I did what I had to do." "And what about me?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "What did I get?" She stepped closer, hesitant. You got me back, maybe, if you want me." He shook his head, voice low, deliberate. "I don't want what's left. I want what's mine." She faltered, searching his face, trying to read the cracks beneath his calm. "I thought, maybe, we could start over. Start over." He laughed again, but it sounded cruel now. "I'm not the same man you left behind? And this place," he gestured around the dim room, "isn't the same either." She looked down at the floor, noticing the ash and dirt, remnants of the fire that had touched everything. "I know I hurt you," she said, "but I've changed." "We could changed," he snapped. "You think a night with him, a year of lies, doesn't change who you are. Don't make me laugh." She flinched at the words, but her chin stayed high. "I had to survive," she said again, more firmly. "I did what anyone would do." "Anyone," he said, eyes hardening. "Not anyone. Not me. Not the man who trusted you." She stepped closer, voice softer now, almost pleading. "I'm here. That's what matters." "You're here," he said slowly, "and it changes nothing. I'm building something bigger now. Something stronger. I don't have time for forgiveness." She glanced at the old family photos, dust-coating frames, faces of parents, and children frozen in happier times. Her hands hovered over them, longing for connection, for what once was. "You really think power matters more than love?" she asked, voice trembling but clear. "Love?" he barked. "Love's what got me burned, left me with ash and smoke and ruin. Power is what keeps me alive." She sank into a chair, eyes still on the photos. "I didn't want it to end this way," she whispered. "Neither did I," he said, voice quiet but sharp. "But it did. And now I move forward, alone if I must." She looked at the faded ring again, turning it slowly in her fingers. "Do you hate me?" she asked. "I don't think about hate," he said. "I think about control, about who survives. And right now, you're just a reminder." The words stung, sharper than any blade. She swallowed, eyes misting. "I came back to fix what I broke." "Too late," he said, standing, boots scraping the floor. He moved toward the window, watching the shadows outside, flickers from the neighboring property, catching his eye. "You should go," he said, not turning. "I can't leave things like this," she said, rising, stepping toward him. "I have to know," he said, voice final. "You have to leave. That's all you can do." Her hands trembled, but she didn't argue. She looked at him once, eyes searching for a trace of the man she had loved. Then back at the cracked windows, at the shadows creeping over the old furniture. "I thought maybe," she whispered. He shook his head again, eyes fixed outside. "Maybe what? That I'd forgive? That I'd forget? No. I remember everything. Every betrayal, every lie. And I'll use it all, but not with you." She stood in silence, letting the weight of the room press against her. Old photos stared back, the wedding ring dull and chipped, a reminder of promises broken. "I never stopped caring," she said finally, voice soft, almost inaudible. Doesn't matter, he said, turning briefly, gaze cold. Caring doesn't build empires. It doesn't rebuild what's been destroyed. I'm done with caring. I'm done with you. She swallowed hard, lips pressed tight, then turned toward the door. I'll leave, she said. Her boots scuffed the floor as she moved past him. He didn't follow. He didn't watch. He stayed at the window, mind already on the land, the deals, the leverage he could claim. Outside, shadows lengthened across the field, wind stirring the long grass. She paused at the door, hand on the frame, looking back once. He didn't meet her gaze. The light flickered against the cracked glass, highlighting the faded ring, the photographs, the space where love had once lived. She left. He exhaled slowly, eyes returning to the horizon, to the neglected land, to the power waiting quietly. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving her presence only as a ghost. In the empty room, he didn't move. The past lingered, but the future called louder. He would build, he would rise, and she would only watch, unsettled, powerless. He rode the perimeter of the old fields, reins tight in his hands, eyes scanning the patchwork of abandoned plots and overgrown fences. Iron gates hung crooked on rotting posts, markers of neglected property, ready for someone with purpose. He stopped at the edge of a neighbor's land, the grass long and wet with morning dew. Morning, Jack, called the farmer, leaning on a broken fence post. You looking to buy or just dreaming? He dismounted slowly, boots pressing into the soft earth. Both, he said, voice low, steady. I'm claiming what's available. The farmer studied him, eyes wary. You know the land's cursed, some say. Not worth your time. Cursed, he repeated, glancing at the leaning posts, or forgotten. There's a difference. I don't know, the man muttered. Just be careful. He nodded, tipping his hat, moving on to the next plot. Later, in the town office, he leaned over a stack of deeds and papers, the clerk watching him, cautiously. You sure about this? She asked. Every signature here counts, he said, scanning the inked names. I've done my homework. Everyone's leaving gaps. I'm filling them. She shifted in her chair, uneasy. You're moving fast. People talk. Let them talk, he said. I don't need their approval. He watched her hesitate, the weight of his gaze pressing like a hand on her shoulder. Your brother's not happy, she said finally, voice quiet. Not happy? He asked, leaning back. He's panicked. Rumors fly. He underestimates you. He smiled faintly, running a finger along the edge of a deed. Good. Let him panic. Let him reveal where he's weak. Negotiations with farmers stretched into the afternoon. One by one, plots changed hands, fences mended, gates replaced with iron bars and polished wood. Each handshake, each signed paper, shifted the invisible balance of authority. A local official approached him, hesitant. You understand the town's tradition, the man said. Property moves slowly here. Tradition doesn't protect. Weakness, he said, voice hard. I move fast. I take advantage. That's all. Some will resist, the official warned. I welcome it, he said, eyes cold. Resistance shows who's afraid. He returned to the Harlan property. That evening, the brother was waiting, leaning against a fence, arms crossed, a mixture of irritation and fear on his face. So you're really doing this? The brother asked, voice sharp, claiming land like a king. I'm building what you should have built, he said, filling the gaps you ignored. People respect me, the brother said, almost pleading. Respect doesn't stop rot, doesn't stop decay, doesn't stop power from slipping away. You think this is funny, the brother said. Funny, he chuckled softly, eyes on the iron gates recently installed. No, satisfying, seeing weakness exposed, seeing control shift where it should have been all along. You'll regret it, the brother said, stepping closer. Everyone here will. Regret, he said, voice low, deliberate, is for those who wait too long. I act, I take, I survive. The brother's jaw tightened, eyes darting to the newly erected fences. Markers of authority that glinted in the evening sun. You're not just taking land, he said. You're taking everything. Everything. He repeated, voice calm, almost amused. I'm taking opportunity, nothing more. You made sure there was room to take. The brother turned, anger flashing, then retreating into caution. People talk, he said, voice quieter. They'll turn. Let them, he said, moving past him, inspecting the posts and gates. Better to see who's loyal when the storm comes. By nightfall, the town hummed with gossip. Fires flickered in kitchens, voices carried through open windows, speculation, rising like smoke. Have you seen what Jack's doing? Claiming land faster than anyone thought possible? He's not the same man. Not after the fire, after everything. She moved through the streets quietly, boots soft on wet dirt, catching fragments of conversation. He's gaining control, a neighbor whispered. Even the farmers can't resist him. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling a tension she hadn't expected. He was methodical, patient, unstoppable. She had underestimated him. Every fence, every signed deed, every iron gate was a reminder of the distance between them, between what she thought she knew and what he had become. She paused at the edge of his property, looking across the new lines, the markers of authority, the land bending to his will. The shadows of the night stretched long across fields he now commanded. The wind carried murmurs of awe and fear, gossip, and speculation. But she noticed something else, the certainty in his stance, the precision in every decision. The town might talk, the brother might panic, but he was building a power no one could shake. She swallowed hard, realizing she had misjudged him. That even now, in the quiet and darkness, he was already beyond her reach, and she didn't know if she could step back, or if she even wanted to. He walked the overgrown path behind the old family property, boots sinking in damp earth, eyes on the moss-covered gravestones, half hidden in weeds. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the ground, stretching the shapes of letters and names like fingers reaching from the past. You're back, the old man said, voice gravelly, seated on the warped porch of a decaying cabin. He didn't look up. I had to be. Be, for what? To understand, to know what I come from. The old man's eyes narrowed. Some things aren't meant to be understood, they're meant to warn. He stepped closer, noticing a rusted well at the edge of the clearing, its stones cracked, water dark inside. I remember this, he said, voice low. I remember falling in here once. Thought I'd drown. The elder shook his head slowly. You didn't. But the fear stayed. The fear and the curse. Our family doesn't forget. Curse? He asked, gaze shifting to faded letters pinned under rocks near the gravestones, their ink running with age and rain. Our land remembers. It remembers blood, loss, betrayal. You think the farm, the fields, the houses are empty. They're not. They hold us, whether we like it or not. He crouched over a gravestone, brushing moss aside. Names of ancestors stared back, familiar and foreign all at once. I've felt it, he admitted quietly. Everywhere I go, shadows following, voices I don't recognize. The old man nodded. Good, you feel the weight. Most run from it, most lose themselves trying to ignore it. And the letters? He asked, pointing to brittle envelopes scattered at the base of the oldest grave. Letters from who? Your father, his father, before them too. Warnings, advice, secrets. You never opened them, did you? He shook his head. Too young, too angry. Didn't care. Now, I need them. I need everything I didn't want before. The elder stood, leaning heavily on a cane, eyes following him as he lifted one envelope carefully. He broke the seal, reading. Lines scrawled in a fading hand. Words about choices, misdeeds, the balance of power, and the cost of ignoring family legacy. Every action echoes, the old man said, voice low. Every betrayal, every failure, every secret echoes until it finds a way back. He held the letter tight, heart pounding. I see it now. I see why I am here, why I survived, why I burned the farm, why I endured betrayal. It was all preparation. Preparation, the elder asked, raising brows. For what? For power, for control, for understanding what's mine, and what I can claim. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying wood. Shadows stretched over the gravestones, flickering like memory and reality intertwined. Your brother, he whispered. The land, the people, they'll respond to him differently now. But me. He turned to the well, staring into the dark water as if it might answer. I'll use the legacy. I'll wield it. The old man nodded slowly. That's the way of it. Knowledge is weight, but weight becomes leverage if you don't crumble. Under it, he stood straight, hands gripping the edges of a gravestone, reading names and dates like instructions. I can feel it, he said, voice firm. The fear, the reverence. I can shape it. And her? The elder asked, voice careful. The wife. She watches, he said. She doesn't understand yet. She underestimates me still. That will change. Shadows of the past seemed to stir around them, wind rattling the old letters, loose stones along the well, whispering fragments of voices long gone. Don't forget, the old man said, the past isn't kind. It doesn't forgive mistakes, and it's patient. Patient, he echoed, eyes on the gravestones, then the surrounding land. Good. So am I patient and precise. He ran fingers over the cracked stone, imagining the blood, the toil, the sacrifice buried beneath. Every ancestor, every letter, every shadow was a tool. He could use it, shape it, make it serve him. Power isn't just force, he said finally, voice low and deliberate. It's inheritance, history, knowledge of every crack, every weakness, and I know them all now. The elder studied him for a long moment, then nodded, cane scraping lightly against stone. Then go, wield it. But remember the shadows. Follow, always. He turned, moving down the overgrown path toward the farm, carrying the letters, the gravestones, lessons, the weight of memory. Behind him, the old man remained, eyes on the moving figure, as shadows shifted, wind twisting, through the gravestones, whispering secrets he now intended to use. He stopped briefly at the well, gazing into its black depths. He imagined all that had fallen in, all that had been lost, all that had been buried and forgotten, and he realized he would command it. Every secret, every betrayal, every ounce of fear left by the past, he would bend to his will. The farm, the land, the family, it was all a chessboard, and he was no longer the child who had fallen into the well. He was the player now, and the shadows of the past, dark and patient, would be his guides. Smoke curled from the remnants of the barn, black against the gray sky. He watched from the edge of the property, hands folded, eyes steady. The brothers' men scrambled, shouting, orders that fell flat, voices thick with panic. Where's the fire line? One yelled. It's spreading. Another shook his head, voice sharp. This is bad, real bad. Town, we'll talk. The brothers stomped through the ash, fists clenched, eyes wild. You idiots, control it. Stop it now. We're trying, a man said, desperation raw. It's too late. Too late, the brother muttered, voice low, trembling. He stepped forward, voice cutting across the chaos. You're finished. The brother turned, spotting him for the first time, and froze. What? What did you do? Nothing you didn't already allow, he said, tone cold. Everything you built, is collapsing. Your choices, your greed, your arrogance, it all fails now. The brothers' allies shifted uneasily, glances flicking between the two men. You think you can take it all? The brother shouted, chest heaving. I already have, he said quietly. Step by step, piece by piece. You're the one left, standing in ruins. The brother kicked at a fallen gate, iron snapping, splintered wood flying. You'll regret this. I've been waiting, he said. Waiting while you bled the land dry, while you lied, while you thought power came easy. You learned too late. That's your mistake. The brother turned on his men. Did he say anything about the deeds? The contracts? They're valid? One stammered. Everything's signed. Everything's legal. He's got the farms, the plots, the boundaries. It's over. Over. The brother growled. No, this isn't over. It is, he said, voice low, but unwavering. Look around. The crest is broken. The gate's fallen. Your barn's burned. You've already lost. You just don't see it yet. The brother stumbled, gripping a fence post, eyes darting to the scattered ashes. His voice shook. People, the town, they're on my side, are they? He asked. Do they rebuild for you, or do they whisper in the dark? Look closer. Everyone sees what you allowed to happen. Everyone knows you failed. The brother's fists clenched, shaking. You won't get me. I'll fight. You've already lost, he said, stepping closer. Every farmer, every official, every neighbor you thought loyal, they follow now because I offered stability. You offered chaos. That's the difference. Silence fell, thick and heavy, broken only by the crackle of smoldering wood. The brother backed toward a fallen gate, tripping over splintered posts, panic rising. This isn't real, he muttered. It's real, he said, voice cold, and it's been a long time coming. He gestured at the broken crest lying in the dirt, a relic of pride and family honor, cracked and blackened. Your legacy is ashes. Your influence is gone, and I decide what comes next. One of the brother's men stepped forward, hands raised. Please, don't. Too late, he said. Your master is finished. The brother sank to his knees in the ash, firelight flickering across his face. You'll pay, he hissed, voice brittle. Pay, he asked softly, eyes glinting. You already paid? Every mistake, every betrayal. I just made it visible for everyone to see. The brother's allies looked to him, fear and uncertainty etching their faces. What now? One asked. He's done, the brother said, voice hollow. You can't stop him. He turned back to the husband, watching, calculating, relentless. I warned you, the brother said, voice raw. I warned you not to rise while I fell. Not to take what's mine. I didn't rise while you fell, he said quietly. I rose while you built nothing but walls and lies. You left gaps. I filled them. The brother's shoulders slumped, despair replacing fury. He looked at the scattered ashes, at the fallen gates, at the broken crest. Everyone will laugh at me, he muttered. They already do, he said, and it doesn't matter. Your power ends in whispers. Mine begins in certainty. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of burned wood and wet earth. Shadows flickered across the fields, across the ruins of pride. She appeared at the edge of the yard, coat damp, boots muddy, eyes wide, watching. He did this, she asked, voice trembling. He took everything. He did, he said, voice calm, measured. And now you understand. Power isn't given, it's seized, and the weak falter under scrutiny. She swallowed, pressing a hand to her mouth, torn between awe and fear. I didn't think. He glanced at her, eyes steady. You underestimated him once. Don't make that mistake again. The brother groaned, head in hands, broken among the ash and debris of his own making. The town watched from a distance, whispers traveling through the night. Some cheered, some recoiled, some stayed silent. And she remained there, conflicted, caught between relief, fear, and a flicker of lingering loyalty to a man now defeated. He turned back to the field, surveying the fallen gates, the burned barns, the broken crest. Every shadow, every whisper, every ember of ruin was proof of what he had built, while others crumbled. The brother would flee or be humiliated further. The future of the land settled in his hands. She stayed silent, realizing she had witnessed not just vengeance, but the making of a new authority, sharp, deliberate, and unstoppable. He sat alone on the porch, candle flickering beside him, rocking chair moving slowly, shadows stretching, long into the night. Clouds gathered overhead, dark and low, hinting at the storm to come. The wind whispered through the fields, carrying scents of damp earth and smoke from distant chimneys. She passed nearby, hesitant, watching him from the edge of the property. He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at the horizon, hands clasped tight around the armrests. The servant approached quietly, lantern in hand. "You can't stay out here forever," she said softly. "I'm not staying," he replied without looking. "I'm waiting, watching, feeling." She hesitated. Feeling what? He finally turned, eyes shadowed. "Everything I should have felt before. Anger, grief, loss, love, even now." She nodded, voice careful. "It's heavy. It will crush you if you let it." "I won't let it," he said. "Not anymore." He rose slowly, walking down the porch steps, boots pressing into wet dirt. The town beyond stirred quietly. Lights flickered in windows. Voices murmured in the distance. A child crying somewhere. Dogs barking. Doors slamming. He paused, scanning the movement. "They all pretend," he said. "Pretend nothing happened. Pretend I'm just a man taking what's mine." "They fear you," she said, voice low. "More than fear. Respect, resentment, desire. Everything mixed together." He clenched his jaw, and her. "She's near," the servant said, watching, waiting. "You feel it too, don't you?" "Yes," he admitted, voice quiet, almost lost. "Even now, after everything, I feel her." Silence stretched, punctuated by the occasional distant shout, the hiss of wind through broken fences. He walked toward the edge of the yard, stopping. At the well, moonlight glinted off the water, dark and still. "I remember falling in here," he said, almost to himself. "Thought I'd drown, thought I'd lose everything. Maybe I did." The servant stepped closer. "You didn't. You rose. Rose. But at what cost?" he asked, eyes tracing the lines of burned barns, broken gates, fences newly erected. "Everything," she said simply. "Everything was the cost." He turned to her, voice sharper. "Now? Do you think I'm at peace?" "No," she said. "Peace isn't yours yet. Not until you face what you've lost, and what you still love." He stared toward the town, seeing the small lights flicker through heavy clouds. Shadows shifted across empty streets. "I thought I could ignore her," he said, "ignore the past. But it lingers, always. That's why storms come," she said, quiet at first, then breaking, and everything changes. He nodded, voice low, deliberate. "Then let it come. Let the storm break. I'm ready." She hesitated, and her. "Will you confront her?" He walked to the edge of the yard, hands brushing against the iron gate he had installed, cold metal biting at his palms. "I must. Not for forgiveness, not for love, for closure, for control." The wind picked up, rattling loose boards and lanterns, carrying faint murmurs from the town beyond. He listened, absorbing the quiet chaos of life moving without him, and yet entirely dependent on his decisions. "She waits," he said. "I know it. Even now, she waits. Watching, testing, measuring. And you?" she asked. "Waiting, measuring." "No," he said, voice firm. I act. I decide. I take. But I also feel. That's the danger. That's what makes this storm necessary. He glanced at the rocking chair, empty and swaying. Candlelight flickered across the porch, casting long shadows that looked like hands reaching for him, pulling him back. The past never dies, he muttered. It waits. Shadows wait. Secrets wait. And I have to confront it all. Then do it, the servant said. Face it, claim it, and move beyond it. He looked to the horizon, storm clouds gathering, in thick layers, dark and menacing. Lightning flickered far off, illuminating the fields in brief, stark flashes. He breathed deeply, feeling the weight of grief, anger, and lingering love tighten in his chest. He turned toward the main house, boots crunching against gravel, eyes sharp, every step deliberate, every motion controlled, every heartbeat echoing the slow, inevitable rise of the storm. She remained in the shadows, watching him approach, conflicted between fear and fascination. The wind howled, shaking loose branches, and rattling the windows of abandoned barns. He paused at the doorway, hand on the frame, eyes searching the interior for her presence. The storm above seemed to respond, clouds roiling, winds screaming, carrying the scent of rain and wet earth. It's time, he said quietly, almost to himself, voice carrying faintly into the empty yard. Time to settle what remains. Time to face what cannot be ignored. Time to command the past before it consumes me. He entered the house, candlelight flickering across worn furniture, empty rocking chairs, faded photographs. Silence pressed against him, punctuated only by the faint creak of floorboards underfoot. He stopped, sensing her presence nearby, waiting, watching, trembling. I am ready, he whispered, voice low and steady, confronting the mix of fear, grief, and lingering love that still bound them. The wind rattled windows, lightning flashed, and shadows stretched long across walls, as if the storm had arrived inside with him. Quiet, but unstoppable. She stood at the edge of the yard, hands clasped around a folded bundle of letters, eyes flicking to him as he stepped off the porch. The wind tugged at her coat, carrying the faint scent of rain and earth. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice low, calm but hard. I have every right, she snapped, stepping closer. Letters pressed to her chest. Right? After what you did? I did what was necessary, he replied, eyes narrowing. Necessary, she said, voice rising. Necessary to take everything. To watch me crawl back like nothing happened. He took a step forward. You returned. You had a choice. I didn't ask for this. She shook her head, letting a few letters fall, scattered on the ground. Choice. You mean the choice to control everyone, to own everything, to leave me nothing but shadows. A group of townspeople lingered behind fences, watching silently, whispers threading through the cold air. He ignored them. I built while you betrayed. That's the difference. Difference. She spat. Differences you call greed, power, and cruelty, justice. Is it cruelty? He asked quietly. Or clarity? I gave the town order. I gave the land stability. I gave myself control. And you tested the limits of loyalty, and failed. Her hands trembled. I failed. You left me. You let him. She paused, eyes glinting with fury. You let him take what you couldn't protect. He didn't flinch. I protected what mattered. You, she asked, sharply, stepping closer. You think holding letters and crying absolves you. She snatched a key from her pocket, old and worn. I have the house. I can enter. You can't stop me. The house isn't yours, he said, voice steady, each word deliberate. You think a key gives power? No, control is earned, not found in wood or locks. She slammed it to the ground. The metal echoed against the dirt. Then tell me what earns it. What makes you the man everyone fears and obeys? He looked past her, toward the fences, the town watching, and the small symbolic acts happening, a gate being lifted, a flag raised above a barn, livestock being herded, men bowing their heads, as if acknowledging his authority. Every choice, every decision, every sacrifice. That earns it, he said. Not keys, not letters, not apologies. She fell silent, breathing heavy, anger shifting to fear, to uncertainty. Then why? Why does it feel empty? She whispered. Because power alone isn't satisfaction, he said. It's responsibility, and I bear it every day. The old revolver lay on the porch rail, gleaming faintly in the fading light. He picked it up, rolling it in his hands, heavy with history and threat. Do you want this? He asked, eyes on hers. To test me, to see if I'll fire. She shook her head, voice cracking. No, I needed to know, to see if the man I loved, the man I hated, still lived under all this. He set the revolver down slowly. He's here, but he's not. For you to command. Not anymore. She swallowed, watching him with conflicted eyes. Then, what now? Now, he said, stepping closer, boots crunching against dirt. Now, you leave, or you stay silent. You watch, or you interfere. You choose, but choose carefully. She pressed her lips together, shaking her head. I don't know what I choose anymore. Then listen, he said, voice low, forceful. I have made my choice. I take the land, I take authority, and I take what remains of this family's dignity. You decide if you'll be part of the story, or just a memory burned in the ashes. A hush fell over the watchers, the townspeople witnessing, understanding the shift, sensing the weight of his assertion. He reached down, gathering the scattered letters, tucking them into his coat, all evidence of the past, all power now. She took a step back, hand hovering over the fallen letters, then letting them go. Eyes glistening, she realized the man before her was not the man she knew. He was sharper, colder, shaped by loss and betrayal. I underestimated you, she said softly. Maybe, he replied, tone almost gentle, but underestimating doesn't absolve you. It only teaches you. Lightning flashed across the distant hills, illuminating the house, the fences, the newly raised gates, the fields that he now commanded. The storm above echoed the tension below, clouds roiling, wind rattling loose boards. She glanced at the revolver, at the key in the dirt, at the letters now in his possession, and understood the cost of misjudging him. Do you hate me? She asked, voice trembling. Hate isn't useful, he said. I feel what I need. Control, awareness, respect, caution. You should feel those too. She nodded, trembling, realizing that dominance had shifted, that the past could not be undone, and that the man she returned to was no longer the one she had left. Then, I stay, or you leave, he said. The choice is yours. The consequences are mine to enforce. She stepped back, watching him gather the letters, lift the key, secure the revolver. Every movement deliberate, a demonstration of authority, a final statement of control. She swallowed, fear and awe intertwining. The storm overhead began to break, rain spattering the earth, mixing with the dust and ash of previous fires. He watched her, calm, unyielding, aware of the town watching, aware of his own morality questioned, aware of the quiet weight of vengeance and authority settling into place. I choose to watch, she said finally, voice barely audible. He nodded once, eyes hard, understanding the limit of forgiveness, loyalty, and love. Every shadow, every whisper, every drop of rain marked the crossroads they had reached. The tension unresolved yet defined, the price of betrayal fully realized. He stood at the top of the hill, overlooking the lands he had gathered, iron gates, stretching along the borders, freshly painted and locked. The sun dipped low, spilling amber light across barns, fences, and pastures, casting long shadows that reached toward him. The townspeople gathered at a distance, quiet but aware, murmurs passing from one to another like wind through dry grass. "It's all his now," one man said, voice low, almost reverent. "All of it?" a woman asked, frowning. "Every acre, every fence, every debt owed," the first replied. He heard it, but didn't move. He let them speak, their awe and fear settling around him like a cloak. A young farmer approached, hat in hand. "Sir, it's remarkable. We didn't think." "Think what?" he interrupted, voice steady, commanding. "That I'd take what should have been mine." The man swallowed, nodding. "Yes, sir, we didn't expect obedience or respect," he said, stepping closer. "You'll earn it," the man stammered. "And watch," he said, "watch how careful, how deliberate, how true authority moves." He turned to see his wife standing near the old barn, arms folded, eyes fixed on him. The wind tugged at her hair, carrying the faint scent of rain from earlier. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. "You see it now," he said. "Every piece I've claimed, every line drawn, every debt collected. Do you understand the price?" She nodded, voice trembling. I see it. I see what it cost you, and me, and us." "And yet," he said, eyes scanning the horizon, "even with all this, it feels incomplete, heavy, necessary, but heavy." She stepped closer, tentative. "I thought you would be satisfied that victory would make it right." He shook his head. "Satisfaction is for fools. Power, control, authority, they come at a cost. Every decision, every day, weighs like stone on the chest." She looked at the gates, at the fences, at the neatly stacked hay, the livestock grazing calmly, the small gatherings of townspeople who now recognized him as the man in charge. And still, "You built," she whispered. "I built," he said, voice firm. "And you? Where do you stand? Do you finally see what it means to choose loyalty over indulgence?" I see it," she said. "I see the man you've become, the man I feared, the man I loved." He paused, letting her words hang. "Love doesn't absolve the past," he said. "It doesn't erase betrayal, but it tempers it, gives it shape, makes it necessary to acknowledge." She swallowed, tears glistening in the fading light. "And me?" she asked softly. "Are you tempered toward me, or?" He glanced at her, voice tight, deliberate. "I see you. I acknowledge you. But my priorities, they remain. The land, the people, the legacy. You must understand your place, or the weight will crush you." She nodded slowly, stepping closer, almost touching him, then stopping short. "I understand," she said, voice quiet. "Not forgiveness, not fully, but understanding." "Good," he said, "because I act in silence, in calculation. I do not forgive because I do not forget. I act because control demands it, because justice, personal or otherwise, requires it." A farmer stepped forward, tipping his hat. "Sir, we recognize you. The town, the land, they belong under your care. We respect that. Respect is earned," he said. "Do not mistake fear for respect. Watch your deeds, your honesty, your diligence. Then, perhaps, respect will follow." The townspeople murmured agreement, their whispers blending with the wind. She looked at the family portrait in his hand, a faded, cracked image of them before betrayal, before fire, before exile. "Do you regret anything?" she asked, voice barely audible. He stared at the photograph, tracing lines with his thumb. "Regret is a luxury for those who cannot act. I act, I build, I claim, I endure the cost, I carry it daily. That is all." She glanced at the iron gates, now firmly closed. securing the lands, the wealth, the authority he had taken piece by piece, and yet, you're not free, she whispered. No, he admitted, eyes sweeping the horizon, sun dipping behind the distant hills. I am not free. Every choice binds me. Every acre, every fence, every look of acknowledgement from this town. It reminds me of what I gave to gain it all, and what I lost. The wind rattled the fences, the livestock shifted, and a crow cawed from a nearby tree. Do you feel satisfied? She asked, taking a tentative step closer. Satisfied, he repeated. No, control is not satisfaction. It is vigilance. It is understanding. It is power tempered with fear and responsibility. That is all. She nodded slowly, tears streaking down her face, understanding the weight of his ambition, the cost of his rise, and the complex distance between love, betrayal, and authority. The sun set fully, casting long shadows across the land, illuminating the gates, the barns, and the family portrait he held in careful hands. He looked at her, voice softening just slightly. We have survived. We have endured. We have claimed. That is enough. For now. She lowered her gaze, silent, realizing the man she faced had fully assumed everything, but carried the weight of it like a crown too heavy for any to wear lightly. The wind whispered across the hills, carrying the smell of iron and rain, and the land lay quiet beneath the control of the man who had finally, inexorably, owned it all. Rain fell in fine sheets, drumming against the roof of the barn where they stood, the smell of wet earth and charred wood mingling in the air. The ashes from old fires in the hearths outside stirred with the wind, swirling around the footprints of the past. She knelt beside a blackened corner of the yard, hands sifting through the remains, tears tracing rivulets across her dirt-streaked cheeks. I never thought it would end like this, she whispered, voice barely audible over the rain. He stood behind her, hands gripping the wooden beam of the barn, eyes on the horizon where his land stretched, every acre claimed, every fence built, every boundary enforced. And nothing ends, he said. We just continue. We bear what comes. She looked up, eyes red and wide. You mean, you bear it too? I do, always, he said. Every choice, every wrong, every betrayal. It stays with me. Every step I take, I feel it pressing against my chest. She drew a shuddering breath, touching the wet ash. And me? Where am I in this? You, he asked, voice rough but steady. You, stand where you always did, watching, waiting, realizing that every move, every deceit, every tear shed before, mattered. All of it. She wiped her face, standing slowly, the rain soaking her hair, clinging to the folds of her coat. I wanted to make it right, she said, voice quivering. I tried. I came back. You did, he said. And I allowed you to. Not because I forgave, not because I forgot, but because the past is what built me. The past shaped every fence, every deal, every breath I took since the night you left. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of wet soil and distant smoke, remnants of burned barns, of scorched family ties. I am sorry, she said, lowering her gaze. Sorry doesn't change what happened, he said. It only reminds us that we survived, that we endured, that we continue. Her hands trembled, brushing against a gravestone he had placed months before, a small marker in a corner of the yard for the family they once were, for the lives broken along the way. I feel it, she whispered. Every loss, every shadow, every mistake. Good, he said, voice softening just slightly. Feel it. Let it remind you. Let it guide you. Let it keep you alive. She stepped closer, the rain plastering her hair against her face, the ashes clinging to her boots. And you? She asked. Do you ever regret? He looked down at her, eyes narrowing against the rain, distant and precise. Regret is a luxury, he said. A weight for those who cannot act. I act. I endure. I build. I claim. I observe. That is all I can do. That is all I will do. She nodded, biting her lip to stop a sob. I see it, she said. I see. The man you became. The man I feared. The man I loved. He did not respond immediately, watching the rain beat against the barn and the wet earth, listening to the silence that came between the drops. Finally, he spoke. Love does not absolve. It does not erase. It tempers. It reminds us of what we lost, and why we continue to act, why we endure the weight of every choice. She dropped to her knees again, letting the ashes run through her fingers. I am broken, she said, voice small. I know, he said, and so am I. But broken does not mean gone. It means alive, and we are still alive. He stepped forward, crouching beside her, not touching, just observing, sharing the quiet space between them. We survived fire, he said. We survived betrayal. We survived loss. Every ember, every tear, every sleepless night, it led us here, and here we remain. She pressed her palms into the cold, wet earth, letting rain and ash mix. I understand, she whispered. Not forgiveness, not entirely, but understanding. He nodded, voice calm but unyielding. That is enough. Understanding is survival, and survival is power of a different sort. We wield it quietly, carefully. We respect it. A low wind swept across the yard, stirring the ashes, rattling the gates, rustling the few trees left on the property. Do you feel peace? She asked, voice tentative. Peace, he repeated. No, peace is not mine. Control is not peace. Power is not peace. But survival, endurance, and understanding, those are mine. Yours too. That is what remains. She drew a deep breath, letting the rain wash over her, over the scars, over the past. Then I will stay, she said. Not as before, not forgiven, but present, witnessing, bearing my own weight. He nodded slowly, eyes sweeping the land one last time before returning to her. Good witness, endure, survive. That is all we can do, and perhaps, in time, it will be enough. They rose together, standing amid the ashes, the rain, the wind, the gravestones, the remnants of fire and betrayal, silent, scarred, alive. He watched her, she watched him, and in that quiet, drenched, ash-strewn landscape, they began the slow, careful process of living under new rules, new weight, new understanding, the land and their lives fully claimed, and yet, still haunted. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the smell of rain, wet earth, and the faint smoke of fires long gone, as the story of blood, betrayal, and survival came to a close.